Hey, followers, good evening. I don't even know what day of the week it is. What day is it? Thursday? Yeah, I think it's Thursday because Katie wasn't in today. So I have been thinking about making this video for some time. If you're here for our usual craftiness, normal service will be resumed at the weekend. I'm aiming to do a long live stream on Sunday. We can knock out some holiday cards. But tonight I wanted to talk about something a bit more personal. So I have turned off the live chat because I didn't want to be distracted by it. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about behind the scenes, me. I've been doing a lot of work recently on, what do I want the business to look like next year? Where are we going? What are we doing? What happens with the subscription box? What happens with Make a Forte? What happens with the Hedgehog Hollow? Like, how does all of this fit together? And as part of that, I joined an awesome coaching program, and I have some great people in there. They do a coach who's about your business performance, but then they do a coach who's about your mindset. And it made me realize that I have never focused on my mindset, on maybe looking after me so much. And I've had an interesting upbringing. I'm going to talk about more about it tonight. And as the title says, I've been really afraid to make this video because I wasn't sure if people cared or if you wanted to know, or maybe people will be turned off of watching the Hedgehog Hollow. But I think it's important to tell you who I am, why I'm behind it, what my passion is, why I do it, all those kinds of things. So there's no way we're going to get through everything in tonight's video. It's definitely going to be something I do over time. And something I've wanted to do since I was probably 15 years old is write a book of what happened to me, how I got here, those kinds of things. And it's something I've never done. I mean, I have had endless sleepless nights where I've in my head written chapter after chapter after chapter. I've never written any of it up. But being with this mindset coach and with Stephanie, and now not just reading business and entrepreneurial books, but reading things about mindset and looking after yourself and mainly acknowledging what happened to you and how you can make a difference. And one thing I have wanted to do is based on things that have happened to me is help others who have been in that situation or maybe are in that situation. And for me, creativity has been a therapy. I guess I never realized that making cards and stamping and doing tutorials and teaching others and sharing this and building a community was my therapy. So I don't even know where to begin. So you all know I grew up in England. I now live in Sarasota, and there is a lot in between. There is no way we're going to cover 34 years in I don't even know how long this live's going to be, but however long this live is. So I was born in what was known as the worst storms of 87. If anyone is British watching this, they will have heard about the storms of 87. And I have not told anyone I'm doing this video. And probably everyone who works for me does not know a lot of the reasons that I am the way I am or things that have happened. I don't talk about them, but I think it's time. It's time to acknowledge they happened. They happened for a reason, and I can help make the world a better place based on the things that happened to me. And if you meet me in real life, Bethany, Alicia, they'll all tell you, I am exactly how I am on my YouTube videos. You will meet me. I'm not different. I am the hot mess who can't find the stamp set they need, and they go, oh, it's fine. I'll just use something else. It's fine. That is me, because I've had to learn to adapt and do all these different things. So for me, it's important for you to know that who you watch on screen and who you meet when you come here or you come craft or whatever, it's the same person. But nobody knows how that person came about. I don't even know and it's something that Greg asked me probably a year ago. He said, he calls me a moldy onion. So let's just start with that. We're going to peel back the layers. He calls me his moldy onion because he isn't sure that he's ever really peeled away all the layers to get to the center, because I come across as harsh, a little bit stern, and Maddie tonight kind of saw angry mum. And I guess that made me realize that I don't know where the squishy middle bit is. But so obviously born in England, the worst storms of 87. That says everything you need to know about the rest of this story. And it's been a rough ride. So I grew up, my parents got divorced when I was 6-ish. And we lived with my grandparents for a while. And I will say my grandparents to me are the world. Like, I loved my grandparents. They are no more. There's more in that later in the story. But They were everything. To me, they brought me up. They were my parents. There are stories that they are my parents and my parents are not. I don't know. My family is screwed up. You're going to get to know this as we go along. But I don't know. But I love my grandparents. They love me. I was the only granddaughter. There were 4 grandsons, and I was spoiled rotten. I will tell you, like, they spoiled me. I was the golden child. I could not put a foot wrong. As a small child, like Tilly's age, it was great. However, what they didn't know was my dad had abused me and taken pictures of me that are totally inappropriate and made me do things that were inappropriate before my parents had got divorced. And even like when my dad had visitation of me, like it continued. And what I didn't know till I was maybe 11 or 12, obviously I never knew any of this was wrong. And I didn't know my mum had known, but we'll come to that. So we went through all of that. They got divorced. We lived with my grandparents. My granddad bought my mum a house. I had some medical issues. Like I physically couldn't eat. My tonsils had grown together in my throat. I was about Tilly's age and I was so thin. You wouldn't think that now because it's not a problem now. Quite the opposite problem because I had bariatric surgery, but that's one of the reasons I needed to have it. And my granddad paid for me to have private surgery, which in England you don't normally do, but I couldn't have it done on the national health quickly. I would have died and my dad wouldn't pay for it. So my granddad did. And my dad was not a great guy, as you can probably tell. So that was really rough. My parents had a pretty messy divorce. I was in the middle of it all. I did not want to see my dad. Like, I didn't know why at the time. And he manipulated me in so many different ways, and it was awful. And then I wasn't much older than Tilly, 6 or 7, and I didn't see my dad. Like, I got to a point, I told a court I don't want to see them, and I didn't tell them why. I just said, I don't want to see him. So it was just me and my mum, and we had a rocky relationship. She was OCD clean. I am not. You've seen my craft room. She was a definite control freak, something I have inherited, but I am working so hard on. And over the last 6 months, I worked really hard on that. Greg will tell you. And then, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, huge amounts of time. My granddad was amazing. He taught me everything I knew about business up until when I went to work. He taught me. He owned some property, and on the last Saturday of the month, we would go and watch. We'd go and get the rents, and he'd teach me, like, you count the money, you have the relationship. This is how you rent out a property. This is like the contract. This is what happens when it goes wrong. Like, he taught me everything. And I always remember he used to have this stash of money under the rug. And when my nan used to go shopping, we used to go what we would call downtown in America. We used to go into Colchester town center. And she used to like to bet on the horses. So if she won, my granddad got cashiers. I got to go to Zodiac, which was the toy store, and pick something out. And we got a taxi home. And if she lost, we got nothing and we walked home. Or if you were really lucky, you got some fish and chips and you got to take the bus home, which I would always remember those kinds of things. But he always had money under the carpet, like his little reserve stash. And if she'd go into Williams and Griffin's, which is like the Macy's of where we lived, and want something, I'd be like, Nan, you remember, there's the stash under the carpet. We'll go home and get some. Like silly things like that. Like, I love my grandparents. There was a song called the Blacksmith Blues. It was on vinyl. I used to make up little dances. My granddad would watch me for hours. I would take Quality Street and weigh them. Like, I love them, like, a lot. So I'm kind of getting emotional already. So anyway, roll on, like, I don't know. I got into a good grammar school. I went to school. Like, stuff happened through that, but it wasn't too bad. I'd managed to get rid of my dad. And as I say, my mom and I had a rocky relationship, but my grandparents were my world, and I loved them. And then I was, 14. Yeah, 14. And by that point, my mom and I had no relationship. Like, it was ruined. I didn't drink. I didn't do drugs. Like, I wasn't a bad teenager. I wasn't allowed to be messy, so that wasn't even an option. And I don't know what set her over the edge. I had a boyfriend. Well, I probably had like 3 boyfriends because that was my thing. I had boyfriends. I went to an all-girls school. There was an all-boys school at the end of the fence. Well, we all had boyfriends. And I had a boyfriend, and he came over one day, and, we're kissing and whatever. You were teenagers, whatever, fooling around. Anyway, she called the cops on him. That relationship ended real fast. Although he is still friends with me on Facebook, so I'll give you that. And then she just kicked me out. She's like, I'm done. I can't cope with you. Like, I'm done. I'm not saying I was a perfect teenager. Like, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't that bad. Like, I think Maddie is worse than I was. And she'll probably say I wasn't that bad when she's older. And I mean, that's the way it goes. So anyway, she put me in the car and she dropped me on my dad's doorstep. He still lived in the house that we'd had when I was growing up. And she dropped me on his doorstep and she drove away. And I had a bag of stuff. I had my school stuff, a bag of clothes. I had my flute because I played the flute in the school band. That was it. She just left me on his doorstep. This guy that was so awful to me. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I knocked on his door and hi. And of course, he realized who I was. I look a lot like my mum and my nan. And he took me in. And I found out he had a Russian wife. He'd done Dial a Bride online somewhere. I don't know. I mean, we're talking 20 years ago. Somehow he'd found this Russian wife, and she came with an 11-year-old boy. I was 14, 15. Like, I was doing my GCSE, so I was that kind of age. And I knocked on this guy's door. Hi, I'm here to live with you, I guess. He's like, yep, your mum called. Come in. Anyway. Luby was my stepmom's name. Is my stepmom's name? I don't know. She made it very clear I was not staying there. Like, that was not happening. So I think I arrived there on the Sunday. On the Monday, I went to school. And by Wednesday, he had a friend who had a house, and she rented rooms out to international students because in Europe, you couldn't have free borders and whatever. So he rented me a room and a house. So here I am, 14 years old, being kicked out by my mum. Arrived on my dad's doorstep, the guy who did all these awful things. And at the time, I didn't know my mum knew what he'd done. And he rents me a room, and I lived on my own. So I have pretty much lived on my own since I was 14 years old. I lived there for a year. I went to school, and he gave me an allowance. I did my grocery shopping. I fed myself. I did my schoolwork. I had a curfew. I had to be home by a certain time. And every couple of weekends, he would come and see me. And if I was lucky, he'd take me out somewhere, or he had like a static caravan, like a park home thing. Anyway, we did that. And that was my life. And after about a year, I don't know what happened. Somehow the police got involved. I don't know whether a teacher said something, because my teachers all knew, but no one did anything. As far as I knew, no one did anything. And suddenly I'm end up back at my mum's house. It's like, you can't live here anymore. And Luby won't have you in my house. So you're going back to your mum's. So it was just before I was 16. And I got back to my mum's house. And you can imagine, like, relationships pretty sucky at this point. And I'm there with my little bag of stuff and what I've accumulated. And I think I'd got a laptop by that point and whatnot. And I had a boyfriend. He was another jerk. We'll get to him. And I'm back at my mom's house. And she asked me if I'd learnt my lesson. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, I assume he did the same to you again as he used to do. And for me, my world fell apart in that moment. And I never did anything about it. I've never reported it to police. I've never gone after him. I've never done anything because I didn't want to break my granddad's heart. Like, to him, that would have been the end of his world. He isn't here anymore, but like, I couldn't say anything. So by that point, I'm like, okay, so you knew. She's like, oh, I have the pictures. And she went and she got this suitcase out. I'd always wondered what this little suitcase was at the back of her wardrobe. We don't have closets in England. We all have freestanding wardrobes. So she gets this suitcase out. I can see it now. I'm sure it's still there. And she gets all these photos out. And she went, well, I hope you're ashamed of what you did, You can never let anyone know. No one's ever going to want you. You're going to be the last one left on your shelf. No man is ever going to want you. Look at this. Like, oh my God, she shamed me. Like, I felt the worst human. And I only told Greg about this maybe a year ago. He said somehow he knew, and apparently his grandma knew. She just knew. But I didn't tell him. I told him maybe a year ago. Maybe. What happened? Because he could never figure out why I hated having my photo taken. And yes, the irony, given I'm on HSN and I do YouTube videos, but I hate having my photo taken. Because to me, that reminds me of that. So I was maybe with my mum for not very long. I had this awful boyfriend. Not Greg. This was just as I met Greg. Like, as I moved back in with my mum, I met Greg. And it turns out I'd been to kindergarten with Greg. We'd been at so many events together. We were supposed to go to the same high school, and for different reasons, we went to a different high school. Greg's dad lived next door to where my nan and granddad used to own restaurants. Like, they'd all known each other. I mean, like, years before I was born, some of that happened. But it was so weird. Like, we're so intertwined together. And anyway, I was with this guy. He beat the living daylights out of me one day. It's horrible. He met this other girl. He didn't want me, and he beat me up. And Greg always tells me he dealt with it. I don't know how he dealt with it, and he will not to this day. I mean, this is 20 years ago. He still won't tell me what he did. I'm sure he dealt with it, and I never saw the guy again. And of course, I made the stupid thing about like, oh, I walked into a door. And anyway, so that went on. Then I dated Greg. Somehow I thought the grass was green on the other side, and I dumped him. And I ended up going out. There's some other stuff in between, but I ended up going out with a guy. He was 7 years older than me. Greg wanted to go to university. He made clear he did not ever want kids. The irony. He did not want to get married. And so we just broke up. So I dumped him at prom. I'm sure you all heard that story. And I ended up going out with this guy. And he was 7 years older than me. He had a car. He had money. I mean, I'm 16. And my mom didn't like that. So in England, back when I was at school, you took exams at 16, like your GED took at 16, and then you had to stay on 2 more years. You took A-levels, and then you went to university. Nobody left school at 16. Nobody. Well, she told me I was leaving school at 16. You sit your GCSEs, you're done. So now I'm in a world where my mum knew I was being abused. She's holding it over me. I'm going out with this guy who's much older than me. He's kind of a jerk, and I'm pretty sure he's sleeping with other women. But it was an escape, and he had a car, and he had money. And I'm 16. I have no real qualifications. And I can't go to do my A-levels. And bear in mind, I had a scholarship to university. Like, I could have gone to university, and I pretty much had a free ride. Crap. What do I do? So I got a job as an office admin in a law office. I think I earned £600 a month, which is like nothing. I mean, it's not even $1,000 a month. And I realized that wasn't going to work for me. So I ended up getting a job as a bank teller. I didn't earn much more, but at least it had the opportunity I could progress. Like, I could work my way up. And I worked so hard. Like, I studied for my mortgage exams. I studied for my financial advice exams. Like, I studied, I worked, and I was the top sales performer, and I worked my backside off. And I started to make progress, got rid of the old boyfriend, met another boyfriend who was also older than me. Maybe the other one was only like 5 years older than me. This one was definitely 7. My mom did not like that. And so we had a huge fight. And I said, well, you want me to behave like an adult? I have to go to work. I have to pay rent. I have to do everything. You need to treat me like one. No, sounds like Maddie. And so I ended up going, and she kicked me out. I came home from work. There was like 3 trash bags outside. She'd locked the house. I didn't have a house key ever in my life. I never had a house key. Still don't have a house key because now we have a code. And That was it. So I rang my boyfriend in tears. He drove 3 hours to come and get me. And his parents happened to be on vacation for 2 weeks. So he said, well, you can stay with me for 2 weeks. By the end of the 2 weeks, we have to find you somewhere to live. Okay. So I found somewhere to live. Oh my God. Honestly, the most horrific place you've ever seen. It was on like section, is it 48 housing? Like council estate, we would call it, housing. I rented a room at £70 a week, which was way more than I could afford, but it's fine. Rented a room. It had mushrooms growing in the carpet. There was mold on the walls. Like, it was gross, but it's all I could afford. It was like the cheapest place. The counts of like the crime rate was through the roof. How I never got raped or murdered or like mugged, I do not know to this day. And at the same time, I happened to get a job in London, but that was a 2-hour train ride. And my season pass for the train was like £800 a month. And then I had £280 a month in rent. That left me £1 a day. So unless my boyfriend bought me some extra food, I lived on £1 a day for about 2 years. And I worked so hard. Every morning I used to get up at 4 a.m. I walked to the train station because I couldn't afford the bus fare. I got on the train. I did a 2-hour train ride, slept, got to work, worked my butt off in London. It was horrible, the job I did. But I worked so hard. And after 18 months, I got a promotion and I actually got to work in Cambridge, which was much closer to where I was. I mean, I had drug dealers pull needles on me. I had people pull knives on me. I mean, we're talking like rough London. I mean, it was bad. So I did all of that and I worked hard. And on my 18th birthday, well, actually back it up. Before I left for London, my granddad came into my bank branch and he told me that I was always welcome. So I used to go and see them once a month because that was all I could afford to get there. But that was a really good meal. Like, I ate well that once a month. And so I still had a relationship with my grandparents. Anyway, roll around my 18th birthday and my granddad said, you can't live in Ipswich anymore. Like, he found out where I lived. I never told him. Somehow he found out. And he said, we need to get you a house. So he helped me get the deposit together for a house. And the job in Cambridge was like a lot more money. I mean, not huge money. I mean, we're talking like $35,000 a year. But it was enough. But the deal was I had to learn to drive in 6 weeks. So I had to learn to drive. I had to buy a car. I did it. I took driving lessons every single day. I did a 45-minute driving lesson. That was my lunch break. I took driving lessons. He paid for them. He helped me get my first car. He helped me buy this house. I just had to make the mortgage payments. It's fine. It's all good. Anyway, I ended up marrying this guy. Stupid decision, probably. Whatever. But it was a relationship of circumstance. And his mum always told me, had she not been on vacation, we got together, our relationship would never have lasted. And we got married in Vegas because we didn't want our parents. We didn't want a big deal, blah, 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 blah. So we flew to Vegas, got married, flew home. We got married on Memorial Day weekend. And his company had a satellite location, sister's location, whatever, in New Jersey. And I decided we needed a fresh start. Like, I needed to start my life over. He was my way out. I had a good job. Our relationship was a little bit rocky. I was 19. Really stupid. I mean, really stupid. I mean, by this point, I'm broken. Like, I am so broken down. I've worked so hard. I mean, I'm at the point of exhaustion. And I'm getting sick from exhaustion. But hey, I can fix a relationship. I can have a kid. Well, along comes Maddie. I didn't know I was pregnant. I pushed and pushed and pushed. We moved to New Jersey. And I sold my house in England and I put the money in the bank. And we kept looking at houses in New Jersey. We decided we want to live in Pennsylvania because the taxes were better and yada, 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 yada. And I had Maddie. I was so sick. Like, I won't bore you with the details. We'll go into them another day. But I was really sick. I went to labor early. I had liver failure. I had kidney failure. I mean, like, lived in hospital. I was 7 months pregnant. It was the 6th of May, 2007. And I spoke to my mum. And we were, like, on okay-ish terms. Ish. And she was at my grandparents'. It was her birthday. And she would have been 52. Yeah, it was her 52nd birthday. And I called and I spoke to her. Happy birthday, Mum. Do you want to speak to Nan? No, I'll speak to her later. You go have tea. They were having tea. And my grandparents always had breakfast was at 8:30, lunch was at 12:30, dinner was at 5:30. Like, they were military. It's the way life was. And I called back. No one answered. Like, no one answered. I called and I called and I called and I called and I called. And I called my mom's house. Nothing. And I knew something was wrong. Like, I knew. And it wasn't in the days of FaceTime. There wasn't the internet like there was. I mean, this is 2007. There was internet, but not like there is today. And I was looking up the number for our local hospital. There's only one. And I looked it up. And I literally was about to dial the number. And my mum called. And she said, I need to speak to Martin. That was my ex-husband's name. It's Maddie's dad. I hadn't had Maddie. I'm still pregnant. And I knew. I mean, like, minutes after I'd hung up earlier, my nan had had a massive heart attack. She was dead. They'd had her on life support. They didn't tell anyone. She was dead. So I decided, against medical advice, I had to go. My nan was everything to me, and my granddad. So I needed to go. So my granddad got us a flight, and he said that Martin had to come with me. And so we got on a plane, and we flew there. And something felt off. But anyway, I didn't think anything of it. My aunt arrived. I didn't realize they didn't tell my uncle, my mum's sister. Found that out years later. My nan's sister came from Germany. My nan was German. Daniel came over. And they sent me to the hairdressers. And I thought, that's nice. Go and get my hair done. And I thought it was weird. I was never allowed to see her body. Never. Anyway, I came back from having my hair done. And my ex-husband tells me, oh, we went and closed the coffin while you were at the hairdressers. They didn't want you to go. They thought you were pregnant and it was too much. And I will never forgive him and them for taking that decision away from me. Like, that hurt. You can imagine if it was your mum, which is what she felt like. So we did the funeral, and my granddad walked with my mum. And I went to grab my ex-husband's hand, and he took my aunt, my great aunt, and I walked on my own. 7 months pregnant. I mean, I was in pieces. I didn't eat. I'm sure that's why I went to liver failure and stuff. And I always remember we left the funeral and we went to her celebration of life, or wake, whatever it was. And he told me to shut up and stop crying. That was the last he said to me. We got on the plane home a couple of days later, and I went into labor on the plane. I got dehydrated from not looking after myself. And he told me to shut up and not say anything because they would land the plane. And I was so scared. I mean, I'm 19. Maybe I was 20 by that point. I was 20 when I had Maddie, so I must have been 20 by that point. And I was so scared. Oh my God, what if they land the plane? Oh my God, what if they, like, all those things go through my head. So we land, go to the hospital, they stop the labor. Anyway, have Maddie like 6 weeks later. Went back to England to see my family. I wanted Maddie to meet my granddad, and I have the most amazing pictures. My great aunt, my nan's sister came over, and he emptied our bank account. Well, my bank account. He went and bought a house. I didn't know. So there's red flag number one. Told you, young and stupid. I'm older and not so stupid. Still stupid, but not so stupid. And I went home, found out I'd bought a house, which I didn't know about, but c'est la vie. Well, you would think this is in 07. Well, the world crashed. We're now in $100,000 of negative equity. We're full of credit card debt I didn't know about. He bought all this stuff for the house, like, couches appeared and Christmas trees appeared and all this crap appeared. Well, I found out it was all on credit cards, and all the overtime he'd had in the boom, that was gone. So I ended up, always a hustler, and this is how I met Denise, who's often on the channel here. I went and taught Michael's in the weekends. And then I took on a job at night. I went and did closing for Cold Stone Creamery and learned to decorate cakes. So I'd make all the ice cream all night. I'd work till like midnight, 1 o'clock. And then I'd go home and I'd sleep till about 4 a.m. And then I'd go and deliver newspapers because I actually paid pretty well. And I'd go and do a paper run. I'd get home at 6. I'd go back to bed till 8:30. I'd get up. I'd do some stuff because I did Stampin' Up. I teach classes at home in my basement, which is how I met Denise. And then in between, like if I was off for a night or if I was off for a weekend, I'd go and teach at Michael's. And we'd exchange Maddie. And I did that for like a year. I mean, I was dead by that. And then I found out from a neighbor who I was friends with, he had other women in the house at night. I mean, I told you, young and stupid. Like, how did I not notice that? Didn't notice. But I was out all night, and he knew I was gone all night. So other women were coming in. So I said I was going to leave. And I came to England. And I rang Greg up. And Greg and I hadn't spoken in years. And I said, I don't know what to do. And Greg never took my phone calls, ever. But he was super tired. He'd been crewing for the boat show. And he answered his phone. And he even told me, in the moment, he's like, oh, crap, I shouldn't have picked that up. He knew my voice the second he heard it. And I said, I don't know what to do. And we went for coffee. And 4 hours later, we were still talking like I'd seen him yesterday. And he helped me. And he said, look, you need to do what's right for you. You need to go home. You need to talk to him and decide what you're going to do. So I flew back to America. And he told me it was all going to stop and it was going to be fine and blah, 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 blah. Wasn't as stupid. I started putting money away. And I was sending Greg money. I was like, just keep it just in case. Well, leopards don't change their spots. And so over that Christmas period, I realized I was going to leave. So I got a moving crew in to get my stuff out and a container to move it back to England. And I rang my granddad and I bawled my eyes out. And he told me I should stay. He never forgave me for leaving. Our relationship was never the same again. He never forgave me from walking away. Never forgave me. Not because I walked out of my marriage, because he lost a load of money because I walked out on the house, which is the sad part. And I moved back to England. I moved in with my mum. What else do you do? You've got a baby who's 18 months old. And it's about to be your 21st birthday. 22nd birthday. And I go back to, and of course, by then all my licenses have expired. So I start back as a teller. And I go back and I get my exams. And I hustle and I work and I hustle and I work. And I worked so hard. And I saved up enough money to get another house. Just a little apartment. But during this time, I'd been back maybe 6 weeks. Maybe 6 weeks. My mum kicks me out again. By this time, my granddad now lives next door to my mum. After my nan died, he sold his house, moved in next door. So he takes me in. But Maddie still lives at my mum's house. Oh my God, the hell. I won't go through it on here because if Maddie's dad watches it, I just don't want to go through that. Anyway, I see her a lot. Not as much as I'd like. There's regrets. Luckily, she was super young. She doesn't remember any of it. I get back together with Greg eventually. That was another rocky road. And I'm hustling hard at this point. And I bought an apartment, lived in it. Greg and I renovated it. He's still at university. He finished university. He graduated with a bachelor's and a master's. And this is definitely the abridged version. I'm just going to tell you, but then I'll get to the point. But you kind of need to know what happened first. He gets a job at Jaguar Land Rover, which is like 4 hours away from where we grew up. And I'm like, I don't want to move. I don't want to move. Maddie's at my mum's. I've got this apartment. My granddad's here. Anyway, eventually he convinced me that it's the right thing to do. And we rent the cutest little cottage. I mean, when you think England and you think little chocolate box cottage, that's what we had. It had beams on the inside. It was tiny. I mean, like, my master bedroom here is probably the whole of the downstairs that we had. My master bath is probably bigger than my kitchen was. Like, it was tiny, but so cute. And it was our first home together. And his grandma gave us a couch, and I got some stuff out my apartment. And we made Maddie this beautiful little bedroom. And we didn't have much money. And we had this chest of drawers that was Greg's from when he was a baby that his mum gave us. And we had like 4 books. We bought pajamas. We bought some clothes. And I walked in my mum's house, and I picked up Maddie, and I walked out. And I don't know why I'd never had the gumption to do it before, but we did it. We put her in the car. We took her with us, and I never saw my mum again from that day. That was 11, 12 years ago. Maddie was 2. Never seen her since. And I saw my granddad for a while. Not that long, though. And then as soon as my nan died, my mum took over. She wanted the money. My granddad had reasonable money. My mum never worked. Never worked. My granddad bought her everything. And she made sure that everyone else got pushed out. I was pushed out. Her brother was pushed out. Her sister was pushed out. The other grandkids got pushed out. That was it. And we lived our lives. And I have nothing to do with my dad since the day I went back to my mum. I've had emails from people who are like, oh, by the way, my husband's looking for his dad and you share the same dad. And it turned out we do. We've had those times. We've had the times where I found out that my brother was one of my customers and he had no idea my dad had a son who's much older than me. I mean, he's like in his 50s. And he was a drug addict and alcoholic because apparently my dad used to beat him to a pulp as a child. But I didn't want to get involved. Maybe I should. And then Greg's dad is amazing. And his stepmom, I love them. They've just been here for a month and they're coming back for another 6 weeks. They're amazing. Greg's mum, not so much. Definitely no love lost. Lots of stories there. But yeah, there's nothing there. His sister put Maddie in a lot of danger one day, and that was me done. But anyway, Greg and I decided to get married. We were together a long time before we decided to get married. And I sent my granddad an invite, and I asked him to walk me down the aisle. And he rang me. I said, I can't come. I'm really sick. But I want you to come and see me. I said, okay, I'll come. And we got there, and it was the week that Maddie had broken her leg. Godmother's daughter's birthday party. It's not the best timing in the world to have to go see him because he thinks I'm now a crappy parent. And he gave us some money for the wedding, and he was pleased we were getting together. And I was pregnant with Tilly, and he was pleased. And he stood in his kitchen, and I will never forget it. He said, Go see your mum. And I said, I can't. Not after what she's done. And he didn't know about the stuff with my dad. He just knew all the other stuff. And he said, no, you need to go see her once a year. I've convinced her that if you go just once a year for an hour, you'll get your inheritance. And I said, I can't. I said, I would rather have nothing than have her money and her in my life. I can't do that. She can't take my kids away from me. She can't have that control over me. And he couldn't understand it. Yeah, he didn't know about that stuff. And so I walked away and I never saw him again. He never called me. He never wrote to me. I sent him wedding pictures. I sent him pictures of Tilly. He never got to meet Tilly. And I mean, at this point, Greg and I were in really bad financial states. We'd made stupid choices. I mean, young and stupid. We'd overextended ourselves with debts and, I don't know, all kinds of crap. I mean, we were going like bankrupt. And it happened to be that he got offered, I mean, I had Tilly and, all of that. And he got offered a job in America. And we took it. And so we moved to Akron. And we got there. And bear in mind, we'd also been through all of Maddie's stuff at this point with her arthritis. Like, we dealt with that since she was 3. We injected her every week, and we'd been through surgeries, and like all of that had happened too. And then we moved to America, and I started Hedgehog Hollow. And I'd card made this whole time. I'd been card making. I'd given up teaching after I'd left Bethlehem, doing my bits for Michael's and all of that. I hadn't taught, but I still made cards just for fun, and I had a little craft space and stuff. And in England, I've made a couple of videos. If you go back on this channel, right to the beginning, the first couple of videos are in England, because I'd had this bright idea. I wasn't working with Tilly. I'd been really sick and all that stuff, and I'd started a YouTube channel. And I mean, my earbud cord is dangling the picture. The video's upside down. Oh my God, it's so embarrassing. But anyway, we did that. And after about 6 weeks, I was pulling my hair out. So I decided to double down on Hedgehog Hollow. And I was a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I joined it just to find people, like to meet friends. That's the only reason I joined, was I wanted to meet some friends. So I used to go live on Facebook every day. And I know some of you who are probably here and have given us the little thumbs up probably watch those videos. And, I'm not going to say life's been rosy. Greg and I have had our ups and downs. Oh my God, we've had our ups and downs. But it always makes us stronger, and we always do stuff together. And we've come close to not being together. When I come home with a dog and don't tell him, or a cat and don't tell him. And there's been some rough times, and there's been other stuff in the middle there. But he's still around, and it doesn't matter how hard I push him, he's still around. So I'm doing this Hedgehog Hollow thing, and nothing to do with my family. Nothing. I don't talk to them. I think my mum still lives in the same house. I don't know anything about my granddad. I often had thoughts about I should just pick up the phone. I didn't, because I was scared. And I put a video out about eating bossing. And I know she's going to watch this tomorrow morning. And this woman comments, and her name is Sally Stapleton. Well, there's not many Stapletons around. And I didn't quite know what to do, because I knew my mum's brother was married to a Sally. We'd actually, when I bought my apartment, we lived in the same road. But due to family politics, we never spoke to each other, because I thought she didn't want anything to do with me, and she thought my mum wouldn't want anything to do with me. Little did she know I had nothing to do with them. And I just didn't know. So I thought, well, I answered her question. She asked what heat tool. I told her to go to Michelle last and buy a Stampin' Up one in England. And then I made a comment. And then she didn't know how to reply because I said, oh, there's not many Stapletons. I'm a Stapleton too. She'd never read The Hedgehog Hollow, Alexandra Stapleton Smith. And she suddenly realized I was my mother's daughter and we were related. And she didn't know. She didn't reply for maybe 2 or 3 days. And she told me she didn't know if she should reply or not. She didn't know how my mum would feel about it. She didn't know that I didn't have nothing to do with them. Anyway, we ended up emailing. And I said, do you know anything about the family and whatnot? How's Granddad? Do you ever see him? I mean, they live in the same small town. Like, you kind of cross each other, like how it is. Not everyone knows each other in England, but it's a small town. Like, you're gonna know. And she goes, I don't know how to tell you, but he died a year ago. Oh my God, I cried. I had my little spot in the basement and I just sat there and I cried. And I text Greg and I said, Granddad's dead. That's all I said. That's all the text said. And apparently he just literally walked out of work, got into his truck and he drove home. At the time, it was the summer holidays. Or maybe it was school break. I don't know. The kids weren't at school. And I had this high schooler who used to help me. And she was watching the kids upstairs. And I just texted her from the basement. And I said, can you take the kids for a walk? And I remember I heard the door shut above me. Like, I could just hear the bang. And I screamed. I didn't know what to do. I still don't think I've really processed it. But it turned out he passed away. He had prostate cancer. He died. She didn't tell her siblings. She didn't have a funeral. He's buried where my nan is buried. And I'm going to England in a few weeks. And I'll go and see his grave, which is probably the second time I've seen it. And that was it. We became friends. She WhatsApps me. I WhatsApp her. She's actually coming to America for the first time in 2 years, as I'm going to England for the first time in 4 and something years. It's actually 5 years yesterday we moved to America. Isn't that funny? Anyway, we've become friends, and she's crafty. And I found out I have my granddad's brother's daughter or granddaughter. I don't even know. Like a cousin somewhere, so many times removed. She's also a Hedgehog Hollow follower and didn't realize we were related until her granddad, I don't know. Granddad, I think. My uncle Les, my granddad's brother, died. And she was trying to find my mum to tell her. Anyway, guess how that went. So that kind of brings us to where we are. And it's not been easy. I have worked so hard. And I've had some pretty crappy things happen. I've lived on my own since I was 14. My dad abused me. I don't consider myself to have any family left. And I've been lucky enough that I've had 2 amazing women adopt me. One is Denise, who was in Pennsylvania. She's now in Virginia and she's moving again. Actually closer, so I might get to see her more. It'll be easier to fly there. And another one who lives around the corner, who you will hear about, Grandma Beverly, whose studio is in her garage. So I'm lucky to have lots of adopted family. But anyway, the whole point of doing this is to say, it's been crappy. And I had the choice. I could have gone down the route of prostitute, drinking, drugs, whatever. Fight or flight. I chose to fight. And I fight. And that brings me to my passion to create. For me, I never realized that was a therapy. But I have a huge passion to create. And that is why I share it and I build this awesome community. I mean, there's 309 people, I think, on. Some more thumbs up would be awesome too. The 63 thumbs up, but keep it going. And I am so grateful for this community because you are all my family. I love you all. And I love holidays. And I love making supplies for you all and sharing them. And I have this cool plan to go live at the weekend. And we were talking about it in camp last night. I love our camps. Like, my campers are super special to me as well. They're like super, super special. They're like your mums. And you're all like my brothers and sisters. I love them. And I want to go live and do like 3 hours and knock out our Christmas cards and show you how I go around Barnes and Noble and I take photos of everything. And I go to Instagram and I screenshot everything. And I don't have half the supplies, but I'm going to use what I have got, and I'm going to show you how to create awesome cards that you can be inspired by other people from. And that to me is like the best way to spend a Sunday. Might not be for everyone. And we're going to have a Make a Forte Hedgehog Hollow holiday party on New Year's Day. I'll tell you all about that the weekend too. And I'm going to spend half a day with you. It's going to be like a mini holiday. So if you can't afford holidays, you've never wondered what it's about, it's going to be free and you can come join it. And we're going to have fun and we're going to give stuff away. I'm going to boost your crafty stash. We're going to craft in the new year. And it's going to be awesome. And I love doing that stuff because you are all my family. So I do have family. They're just the Hedgehog Hollow family. And I want to say that if you are in a bad situation, whether it's a cheating spouse, someone who abuses you, physically, sexually, mentally, whatever it is, you can fight. And I'm here for you, and you can reach out to me. You all know it's alexandra@makeaforte.com. It's super easy. And I want to start using what I've built here, this awesome community I've built here. And if you want crafty, hit subscribe, ring the bell. I'll be back at the weekend. Need a few days to kind of get my shit back together. But I want you to come and craft with us and make friends. And I've built this company, Make a Forte. We're doing pretty good. We're on HSN, which is awesome. And I can tell you, whatever I do is never good enough for me. Like, I feel like I failed HSN. My campers told me the most amazing words yesterday. And I will go back and read any comments you leave. I just couldn't read them and have live chat on because it would have distracted me and I would be even more of a mess as I am now. But what was I going? I do want to write a book about it because it's a story. And I know I missed tons of stuff out because I was literally doing it on the fly, trying to think through the timeline. And I know I missed all sorts of stuff out because in my head I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that. Whatever. About how you can fight and you can work and you can get through this and you can do this. And I didn't tell you about the stalker I had in London and all the other crazy stuff I've been through. But you know, it's amazing. Christopher Allen is just texting me. I can't even see what it says. I just saw it said Christopher Allen and he said he was watching. I can't see a thing without glasses on. And I want to write a book and I want to start speaking at events and telling people these stories because I'm not the only one. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who hasn't told their husband things that happen in their childhood or that things are happening to, you know, like I had a crappy ex-husband. Hey, I'll say, what did he say? I said, I'm very proud of you. Oh, thanks, Christopher. And I'm not the only one. And you can do this. And if you need help, I'm here to help you. And I'm working on plans for next year of some like crafty scholarships for those who can't afford crafty supplies and can't afford holidays, but maybe they need that little outlet. And I'm working on ways to build more community. So I'm putting it out there. This is me. This is who I am. And I work as hard as I work. And everyone who works here or has met me will tell you I work from the minute I open my eyes to the minute I fall asleep. I'll do this. I probably cry for a little bit. I have my favorite cup of water right here, my Starbucks Halloween glow-in-the-dark cup. And then I have a book I'm reading, which is right here. I have my snack and I have a book. It's called Magnetic Marketing. It's awesome. Dan Sullivan is like amazing. And my favorite guy in the world, Russell Brunson, he just bought his company and they're writing a book together and I'm super excited about it. And when I've read it, I'll send it to my friend Tanner over at Maker's Gonna Learn because I want to share it with him too. And that's why Make a Forte Hedgehog Hollow is all about collaboration because I want to make other crafters stronger. I want to bring them to our community. I want them to grow. I want their brands to grow. This is not just about me. I want to help others. And I feel like that's my purpose, is like, I've been through a lot of crap. I mean, a lot. We have touched the surface here. And it makes me a complex person and someone who never talks about it. I never cry. Like, I was brought up German. You don't cry. I think if they saw me crying now, oh my God, I just dread to think what they'd say. But it's rough. It's been rough. It's been a rough ride to get here. I'm 35 in January. I got ID'd today, so that was fun. But I want to start using the community, the platform we've built, the success we've built so far, not only to grow it more, because I want Greg to work in it. I want Greg to be able to say, like I do, every now and again, I'll say, Tilly, let's take a sick day. And her and I go for books and ice cream. And Maddie's a teenager. She doesn't want to spend any time with you. But we used to do it with Maddie too. And we go to the toy store. And we go to Sophie's for lunch. And we go and buy a new outfit. And we have fun. And he can't do that because he works for GM. And my dream is to build a platform that all family can do that. And that we can all have an amazing life. But along the way, I want to bring other bloggers, illustrators, people like Christopher along, and build them up too. And I want to start talking about it. And so I am putting out there that if you know an event that thinks it would be a good fit, whether it's for women, whether it's about growing a business from nothing to pretty big, to getting it on HSN in less than a year, which is a pretty good achievement, then let me know. And maybe I'll start putting pen to paper and starting to write this out. I want to write a book about what I've been through and a book about starting a business. Because if you have a dream, I want you to put it out there. I will mentor you. I will help you. I will share my connections with you. Like, I want to help. I want to share. It's a big part for me. And I hate the word mumpreneur because we don't call them dadpreneurs. We're entrepreneurs. So whether you're a entrepreneur of a mum or a dad or a brother or a sister or a kid, I want to help you. So that was my life for tonight. It's way longer than I thought it was going to be. Oh my God, I've talked for an hour and 300 of you are still here. So I'm very grateful for you all. I will come back in the next couple of days and read all of the comments. And I saw some of you have been emailing me and texting me. So thank you. I just need to recompose myself a little bit. It's another reason I took my glasses off, because then I couldn't read all the texts and emails coming through. So anyway, that's a little bit about me. That's why Maker Forte and Hedgehog Hollow is so important, because I am building something. I guess Phoenix from the ashes. I'm rebuilding myself. I'm becoming Forks. There were a lot of ashes, and now I'm ready to spread my wings and share it and use what I've learned. I'm still young, not quite as stupid anymore. And I want to share that. So thank you for spending an hour with my tears and my emotions and everything along the way. It's been emotional. I'm sure this isn't going to be the last one either. Craftiness will resume at the weekend. Thank you for all the comments, the thumbs up, the subscribes. I can see them all ticking up, so I am grateful for you all. And if you need me, reach out to me. I am here for you. And together we're going to build something awesome. We're going to make everyone a maker. My dream is to touch 1 million makers in 5 years. That's what I want to do. I want to touch 1 million makers in 5 years, because making is an amazing therapy. I've read studies on it, and I want to make making easy. Bethany and I came up today with a concept. We think it's going to be the gateway drug into making. We came up with it today, and we think it's going to be awesome. And it's going to be a way that if you've never made a card before, you're going to be able to pick up this thing that we're developing, and you are going to make the most beautiful card. And you need one thing. That's it. One thing. And you can make the most amazing card. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a wild ride. And 2022, better buckle up, because we have 1 million makers to find, and we can do it. And you can all help me do it. I appreciate all of you. I love you all. You are my family. You are my prickle, which, if you didn't know, that's a collective group of hedgehogs. There's lots coming down the line. So come join me at the weekend. Hit subscribe. We'll craft together and make some Christmas cards, some holiday cards. We'll laugh. We'll cry. We'll have fun. I'll give some stuff away. And then come join us for the holiday party. I'll tell you all about it at the weekend. So thank you, everyone who's joined me this evening. You are awesome. I love you all, and I'll see you soon. Bye.